distant skies, firefight calls, the stakes are high. Turn this way, heroes and spies, control fire, where strategy lies. Hear the tales, fierce and deep, victors roar, defeated weep. We blaze a way, we don't hold back, control fire, ready to attack.
Hello and welcome to Controlled Fire, your monthly musings on Mantic's Firefight. I'm Sam.
I'm Mike.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Mark.
Yes, there is a fourth voice around the table. For this episode, we are joined by special guest Mark, who is going to be chatting with us about his recently concluded campaign, The Dying Light, and how you, dear listeners, could go about running your own narrative campaign in Firefight. Before we get into that, let's do some From the Forge. Mike, what have you been up to?
I haven't done much in the modelling front for a little while. This last weekend we had a full con out at Toowoomba here in Queensland, and I ran the Kings of War and Firefight tournaments out there, which was really good, and it was a lot of fun. I stayed there overnight in time and met up with some people who came up from Port Macquarie, which is a good 5 or 6 hour drive away, and it was good to hang out with some of the boys and do that. That's what I've been up to.
It was a sensational set of tournaments. I really enjoyed them.
Thank you very much.
Is that because of who wasn't there?
And Luke wasn't there, so what were you up to?
Well, yeah, so school holidays, we had a bunch of things going on with the kids and whatnot, so I was otherwise occupied. I am sad that I missed it. Saw lots of photos, heard lots of commentary. Looked like a great weekend, as it usually is. Sad I couldn't be there to take out the doubleheader like last year. But maybe next year. So hobby-wise for me, sci-fi just been printing a few more zombies because I got even more models from the Walking Dead tribes that's running on my mini factory. Mm-hmm. So they are Mantic zombies, which is great because I can print single-piece Mantic zombies.
No assembly!
No assembly required to use in Plague. So I've got a lot of those, would you believe? And then painting-wise, just doing more Kings of War for the slow grow, but also to rend out a few units for BrisCon, which is next weekend. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent. Mark, go ahead.
I'm boosting my troop selections for my Forge Father's army and painting a unit of Rakia and a unit of Thorgrim, both MSU, 5 models each, and a nice shiny new Nar transport for them to get them up the board fast, well, for dwarves.
Yes.
And
Fast-ish.
Fast-ish and into the action. That's what's on my hobby table at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. For myself, I'm also painting for the slow grows. So I believe last time when we were saying that I had the Hellfane and, a Decimator Horde. They got done in time, which is great. And so this time I'm doing 3 regiments of Black Souls and a Soulless. Also getting myself ready for BrisCon, because I figure if I'm able to get to this, that gives me 1,500 points of Abyssal Dwarves. I can top it up with the Orc army that I've already got, and I can run a brand new force for BrisCon now that I'm back and playing Kings of War again. So I was also playing in Mike's Full Con tournament and was pretty happy with how that went, and also played in Firefight and took my GCPS to that one. So
Isn't it funny that 2 of the filthiest Firefight players are also doing the filthy crossover Orc and Abyssal Dwarf armies in Kings of War? Who'd have thought?
I thought it was because there's units like Soulless in there and
true.
Slave Drivers. Might maybe be appropriate for you too, but anyway.
Grotesques?
Yes, all these units that seem to suit you, yes.
Oh, brilliant. Well, before we get into unpacking what it takes to run a Firefight narrative campaign, Mark, can we just find out a little bit about you? Would you like to tell us how you got into tabletop gaming generally, and then what brought you into Firefight?
Well, pretty much. I've been a veteran gamer for over 30 years. Like a lot of people, started off in the Games Workshop, 40k universe, playing Space Marines, Ultramarines, hence my handle is still Ultramarine 40 everywhere. And so I started off with 40k, both here and while I was working in the UK. And family come along, interrupts the sort of the gaming schedule. That happens to all of us as part of the evolution.
All of us, I think, literally.
Yeah. All of us, literally, correct. When we came back to Australia, packed up everything, and a lot of it was in the storage shed, and decided in mid-2000s I wanted to get back into gaming and get my son into gaming as well. So we packed all that stuff, and that's when the big change was, moving everything from the old world to sort of the new Primaris, and had to start again type thing. And I went, well, if I've got to start again, I'm going to put my head up above the cubicle and have a look what else is around, right? So had a bit of a play around with some semantic sci-fi games. That's the early versions of Warpath and Firefight, and collected some of those. Got one of the early, I think, V2 Deadzones. That type of stuff. So still got some of the old Restic models, the originals. And sort of kept going into that, and then I actually preferred the Mantic games with the alternate activation type stuff. And when I get a bit tired of that, we'll dust off the old Space Marines and turn them into OPR and play a bit of beer and pretzels on a Friday night with OPR. So that's pretty much my jam at the moment. But yeah, I'm really into Firefight. Really fixated on my Forge Fathers and Dwarves. I'm a single army guy, and that's what I've been going with. Not very successfully over the last year. Attended a lot of tournaments, never made a podium. One best painted, I was happy with that. But so I need to improve the competition game. And wanted to sort of expand what I can do, and sort of thought, let's move into the narrative missions and see what they have to offer.
When you mentioned you were going to be doing the Dying Light campaign, I was so excited, because I think back in episode 1, when we were all discussing what our relative jams are in gaming, narrative campaign gaming is the thing I enjoy the most. So with that in mind, Mark, can you tell us a bit about your campaign, whereabouts you got the inspiration for putting together the Dying Light?
Sure. So firstly, after I did the intro and everything, I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting me onto the podcast and providing me with the opportunity to talk about the recent Firefight campaign, The Dying Light. I'll actually start with the inspiration sort of question first, and then sort of move into the storyline. So my main source of inspiration is the Mantic Warpath universe lore. I'm a bit of a lore master. I really like that. I'm a big fan of the Warpath universe, as it's a living, breathing, expanding environment set in our galaxy in the not-too-distant future. There are a lot of open hooks in the lore, which make it quite extensible to add your own stories and characters without contradicting the Mantic headcanon and debasing it, and going off down a rabbit hole. The main resources I used in the creation of the campaign are the Warpath Universe sourcebook, which is now free. You can download that off the Mantic website. I paid for original hard copy version of that. I won't say I don't want a refund or anything, but it's all about that. The Warpath Wiki online, I find those guys love to get all the snippets, and they collect a lot of the stuff from the different releases, and the different box sets, the sort of the mini manuals that come in those.
They're very diligent as well.
Yes.
They are.
Always updating. And
also the supplementary lore that has emerged along the Warpath universe timeline for the Mantic releases, as, they've gone through the different global events. There was one when they originally had the Tertia Revolutionaries, where Tertia Prime sort of came up. And there was also ones for Magnetar, where they had vehement infestations and that. So there's a lot of lore you can jump on, which is not purely in the books. You can grab those and really push those out. I wanted the campaign to be totally relatable to Firefight and Deadzone players. And I believe there needs to be a reason why you're actually having the event is occurring. And then for each mission, bringing the opposing players together on the battlefield. The campaign is set in the final months, weeks and days on a planet in the GCPS fourth sphere called Tertia Prime. This planet is under siege by the Nameless, which is the new faction coming to Firefight, hopefully. We keep getting this taste. It's in Epic Warpath. We wanted in 2018.
We've had it on air confirmed. That,
I think Ronnie said so, didn't he?
Yes, Ronnie did confirm.
We got it in Deadzone. We got it in Epic Warpath. So I thought it a little bit timely, a little bit contextual. So the Nameless, this is their first major offensive into GCPS Hell Space, and their end goal is to aquaform and create a beachhead planet in that region of space for further conquest. Hence the name of the title of The Dying Light, of this doomed planet. So that's where that came from. Obviously, the Council of Seven are not going to surrender a planet with its valuable resources without a fight, but they're also pragmatic and will cut their losses if the balance sheet is not in their favour. All this is occurring while managing corporate politics and the existential threats, not just from the Nameless, but other Xenos races and traitorous rebels. So there's a lot going on in the fourth sphere. Any good story, in my opinion, starts with the protagonist. And in this story, that's a forward observer of the Enforcer Corps. His complicated extended family relationship and some sort of debt to one of the council members, Councillor Lang. I searched high and low for councillor names and I found Councillor Lang in the Warpath wiki. So I've taken that as canon, and he got to the full sphere. With the multitude of corporations in the GCPS, there's also competing agendas, some subterfuge going on, especially with that dodgy Maisland Labs lot, bordering on sedition, and even some traders in the mix. So all those elements for a complex and volatile scenario present to allow story development down multiple pathways as the campaign unfolds. The overall campaign narrative, missions and reports is delivered in this campaign from the Council of Seven and Enforcer's perspective. So it's from a human perspective and post-human. I didn't develop any Xenos characters or any dedicated antagonists or any side narratives during this campaign.
Yeah, that's all awesome. And I think having like a narrative campaign led by someone who deeply understands the lore and is able to craft something like that for a narrative is fantastic, because it's got so much more flavour and depth to it than just someone like me that would just, all right, that was that round of games done, everybody. Good job. Here's the next round of games. Have at it. So that's all interesting.
You'd actually set up the framework for the campaign in advance. We know that obviously because of a lot of the advertising and stuff that you'd done. How did you decide upon how long you wanted to run the campaign for?
Yeah, sure. That really falls into sort of like building the campaign format and that sort of stuff. So first of all, I started off with guiding principles. So you got to have a plan. Yeah. So I basically designed the campaign with 3 guiding design principles. Number 1, it needs to be fun and engaging. Right, so that's what I wanted to try to, so we could attract like all sorts of players that are both your garage players as well as your competitive gaming players. The second part of it is I wanted it accessible to all demographics, not just the competition crew or the younger club members, the ones that just like to turn up to club for a social game, that type of stuff. And 3, deliver consistency in look, feel, and execution over the campaign life cycle. So I was very conscious about branding. The scope I set was for 6 core missions delivered on a monthly cadence, with a stretch goal of an optional bonus mission 7 and all the missions coming from the narrative mission section of the Command Protocols book. So I wanted to steer away for this one from any of the standard normal battle missions. Yeah.
It was so refreshing to be playing all of the narrative missions. It actually, I think, prompted us to do our narrative mission episode maybe about 3 ago or something.
Yeah, it was fairly towards the end of last year, I think. But yeah, that was definitely the impetus, and I think we might have mentioned you a few times.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it.
Picking those narrative missions as well really leans well into that principle you established of wanting to go to more than just your competition gamers. You really want to be reaching out to new. I think I mentioned in the episode that there's a bit more randomness in those narrative missions where you're like, I've done this, but I don't score a point immediately. I roll a die to see if I score.
Correct.
And it makes it so much more accessible and just opens the play space, which just aligns so well with the principle you outlined.
Thank you. From that point, I went on, I gave myself a stretch goal. If the campaign was a success, which it's been weighed and measured, and people have told me it's a success, there'll be a final mission, and that's set actually for the 24th of May, 2026, mission 7. So it's a bonus mission. And that day will be followed by a campaign closeout and campaign medallion presentations for those dedicated generals who have completed all 6 campaign missions. There's a couple of those already, and there's a few more working towards their completion missions as well. So they've all been forged, and I'm busily painting those at the moment. Just a spoiler for those listening of this in advance of Mission 7, it's going to be on hard mode, as I've combined 2 of the more difficult aspects of the narrative missions, so Kleenex will be provided on the day. It's going to test your patience to the limit.
I'm now thinking, what could you combine? Like the seismic shift with weapon testing, or... I'm very excited to see.
Well, let's hope everyone that's completed those and it doesn't become that was the worst mission of the campaign.
Maybe I can join in on hard mode. I'm actually a bit disappointed with the timing that I haven't been able to participate, because it timed in perfectly with the birth of our child.
Yeah.
And I've just been way too busy to participate. I don't think I've been to a club day this entire time. So, yeah.
Well, that's really good that you actually say that, Luke, because one of the guiding things was accessibility. And I'm going to leave all the online resources up, for anybody. So you can just jump on, grab one of the missions. Everything's there. All the backstory, player packs, missions, result sheets, everything like that are all up there. So there's some replayability. If people want to go and grab it and use it, it's going to be more than welcome to do that.
Awesome. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking when you were saying that the seismic, was it the seismic that was the hardest one for everyone? It wasn't for me. The planet was on my side. Every time anyone wanted, I think I was playing Jason in this one, and every time he wanted to do something, the planet reacted in such a way to pin his units or stop them. It was fantastic. So love that mission. Play that one more often.
Okay, that's fine.
With weighted dice.
Yes. So drill down on each of those things. Number one, fun. So one of the things I really wanted to do was remove barriers to entry. So one of the things, unpainted models or proxies, fine. There was no rules about that. That's fine. No requirement to play the same army or list for the duration of the campaign. No linked progression. So if you missed a day, it doesn't come with a penalty or a disadvantage. So I made every mission episodic in the sense that while the missions followed the story narrative and campaign timeline, it didn't impact the player in any negative aspect. So it's like you could hop on or hop off if your life's in the way and you can't do something, or sport, or family commitments. Okay, I missed that weekend. Okay, well, I'll go to the next one. Okay, I just missed that mission. Right, each one was a self-contained episode. Points I boosted to 1750 to allow people to play around with their lists and also include those extra units that you tend to have to compromise on in the smaller 1250 to 1500 competitive games that get left on the shelf.
That would be awesome if there were like the Epic Warpath, like Firefight versions of the Epic Warpath super heavies in a narrative larger points battle game. We should.
Well, I've already upscaled one of the Forgefather Halok fighters and written test rules, but nobody wants to play me because they're too. So I wrote, nobody wants to play me with that. So on the accessibility side of things, one of the things I was pretty keen on doing was publishing the schedule for the whole campaign, for the whole. Well, it's actually ended up 8 months now because we had a month off in January. Due to sort of people being away. There's Clash of Protocols, so players were away for that. Also, a lot of families were away on holidays, school restarting. So January we had a bye. I had to sort of deal with the Christmas, and that was something Mike warned me about early up when we were talking about this, it could drop off through the Christmas period, but we really only had January affecting that. So I wanted to publish a schedule up front so people can plan around those game days. I wanted to deliver all the campaign digital resources online and did that via a shared Google Drive. The Manic Companion, unfortunately, doesn't have the narrative missions included in it. So if you are an all-digital consumer and you don't have a physical book or a PDF copy of the Command Protocol books, you actually don't have access to those missions. So what I did is I just PDF exported and renamed those missions that I wanted missions 1 through 6 and shoved them up onto the Google Drive, right? One of the other things I do on game day, I also ran 2 3-hour sessions, morning and afternoon, to give people the flexibility on timing, to attend the venue on the day. Consistency was one of the other things. I wanted to make sure the missions followed a logical storyline progression, focus on delivery of a similar game event experience every game day. If something doesn't work, you can tweak it, move forward, fix forward, and keep going. So I want to deliver a consistent experience. That included like turning up early on the day, setting up the tables, making all the resources available, missions and results sheets, spare dice, etc., and just make it as easy as possible for turn up and play. One of the things that I did, I gave everybody the mission sheets. And everybody's digital these days. Nobody had a pen or a pencil. So I diligently went home, raided my wife's teacher resources and grabbed a box of pencils and put that in my game day kit.
Yeah, every time I run a tournament, I take a pack of spare pens.
Yeah, you got it.
I have a box of random things like Post-it notes that people need to write magic items, or if they lose a model and we need a blank base and they need to stick something to, any number of things happen. So I've always got a box of spare stuff.
This is, do you have any spare command dice? We've had that pretty much every time.
I was going to say, I know you mentioned as a Forgefather player, it actually sounds like a very Forgefatherly approach to running a campaign in that it's very prepared and methodical and meticulous and showing up punctually. This all sounds very Forgefather.
Do I have to cosplay now?
I mean, sure.
It's also not running at a rapid pace. It plods along slowly, as it were.
Yeah, okay.
So you've spoken a few times about, the narrative and sort of how that played out. How did you work on adjusting the narrative? Like, how did the story get updated as the results came in?
The overall narrative for when you're doing a campaign can be either pre-planned at the storyboard stage, which is what I wanted to do. So I created the storyboard, and then I looked at how that was going to happen, like the major events, how they're going to happen over the timeline of the project. Then I picked the missions. So the mission sequencing had to seem logical. Why you're on the planet? What are you doing? Having a bit of a sneaky peek around, trying to get people off the planet, discover some more stuff, go dig some more, go and explore some more. Ooh, found some bad guys, better go get them. Like, you have to sort of work that out. The other way is to just wing it, and it all happens organically, right? So what I try to do, my approach was as a hybrid, as I knew what missions were happening in what order sequence and what actual result they would have on the campaign storyline overall. But the actual results came to the story, but the actual who, where and what organic components came from the gaming day. So gaming day participants who turned up on the day with their different armies. My aim was to release a mission update in the week following each game day using those results of what armies faced off, how they fared, as this makes it relatable to the players who are shaping the narrative as the campaign progresses. Mm-hmm. Asterians didn't appear till, I think, round 3. But I had in the narrative, they're here somewhere, we just can't find them type of thing. There must be stealth. They haven't shown their hand yet.
Well, it was all balanced at first, and they showed up when it became unbalanced.
I was going to say, as a player in the campaign, I really enjoyed jumping off the narrative as well. Because in the early ones, there were some things around Maison, for example, with the sort of Maison labs. I was like, well, I'll bring my Maison then. And then as we start to see plague start to surge in some areas, I'll start bringing my plague then. And it also spoke to what you mentioned before about not being locked into a single faction throughout the campaign. The players are also able to jump off on that narrative. It was great.
Yeah, I think they enjoyed it, especially some of the younger players. They, played some Maison, and then then they had their Asterians out. People like myself who has one army. I played Forge Fathers all the way through, which is a bit boring. But, some of the narrative games when people who we don't normally sort of see on the competition circuit turn up with beautifully painted enforcers and throw down with a vehement infestation. Content, here we go. Like the planet's erupting, it's everything. The Veermen are bursting up from the planet. They're trying to get off planet as well. Everyone wants to bug out. But
as their tunnels flood, right? The rising water forces them up.
Yeah, and a lot of the things, as I said, from an enforcer GCPS perspective or council perspective, looking at observation, like there was reports in from Pathfinder units, of a pretty full-on battle between some Forge Fathers and Night Stalkers that went down and couldn't really write it because they're not part of the thing. So I had to bring in the Night Stalkers were observed. What are they doing here? What else has Maison been up to after the shenanigans on Pluton 3? It's... you sort of try to grab those hooks and bring them in where you can.
Yeah, I do like bringing in the players' armies and what the players are doing sort of outside of just pure results on, in a scenario to the narrative. That's really cool. I think you'd have to be an absolute madman to have tried to storyboard out all of the narrative possibilities in advance.
Impossible.
And it would have been missing a lot of the flavour, I think, that came out of it.
Would have been disconnected.
Not impossible to storyboard it out in advance. Ken Ferris used to run the Kings of War Masters in Australia back when it was a one-day event. The day before would be a narrative tournament, good versus evil, and that madman would write the narrative with all of the possibilities about what happened through the day. So it was like a choose your own adventure book that he would write up.
Here's the branching scenario, and the branches are determined by...
Yeah, and he would, because he would write in, you would have to nominate your general of your army in advance with list submission. So he would have us read out the narrative stuff from the perspective of our army general saying things and arguing and bickering and that sort of stuff. It was a really cool way to involve the players, but he had to pre-write all of that in advance of the day for any possibility. Crazy.
I was trying to write Sam in there in the early part as one of the Maison antagonists with the Maison general.
protagonist, I think, is what
Antagonist.
guys. Nazar for a better galaxy.
No. We had you all set up for capture and a good Chovar mind flame, but you went on holidays.
Yeah, I went to the UK. I'm sorry.
So he disappears. We don't know what actually happened to him. That Mazon guy.
Even more mysterious.
Even more mysterious. He's off doing shenanigans somewhere else.
I think from the other side thing that you touched on it there a little bit is obviously two of the other people here are very tournament focused, I guess, in most stages, and I run a lot of the tournaments, and it was great to see. You briefly mentioned it there that a lot of people were turning up to the narrative campaign that don't normally turn up to tournaments. You're hooked into a whole other section of the community there to start turning into those events who don't normally turn up to the more organised play events. It was really good to see those people turning up and playing that game.
I was surprised, actually, how many... There's a lot of people, and they've got a lot of gear.
Yeah,
Multiple armies.
It just proves that you've got a lot of people hiding in areas that might not turn up to tournament-type events who are willing to play the game.
It's fabulous.
The other thing we've had when we've tried to run narrative events for different games here is that it always ends up being the usual suspects. The people that run the tournaments then say, I want to do something narrative. And as much as we say this isn't about, having a winner and that sort of thing, it's about getting together and playing a bunch of games in a day, it still ends up having a sort of a feel of a tournament. So it was really nice to have someone come in that, hasn't got that stigma or smell to them.
Sorry,
I'm in that boat too. I'm dumping on my own narrative events as well.
I think what Luke's trying to say is I'm special. That's okay.
No, it's just nice to have someone different to that group come in and run something and just show everyone that it doesn't always have to feel competitive. It can be narrative and
it was story first,
yes.
not win, loss, and all that sort of stuff first. It's excellent.
I did incorporate the daily results into the story-based forward observer reports. The amount of points, killed became the butcher's bill. The butcher's bill was at the total for the day was the points. Victory points on, objectives, achieved was a total of all their victory points. It gave like a bit of a thing. So I've got a running tally of all those sort of stats, and it's quite amazing. How many games are actually played. I'm waiting for the final to come in, but we're over 20. We're up 29 games or something.
How many souls were lost in the campaign?
Yeah.
Rather large number.
There's plenty of that.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things about running any kind of extended duration gaming event is maintaining engagement over time. Now, I know you mentioned that this has actually run on a little longer than you thought, at being 8 months. How do you keep the engagement up?
I think that one of the things, communication, I believe, is key. It needs to be concise, and you need to deliver the messaging, desired. You really got to target your audience. You've also got to vary the content where possible with new and engaging graphics, and so it's not the same old sort of like rinse repeat. You're just like reading a stock market report. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that was interesting. Not really. Play on. There's a balance to comms as well, because too much comms people ignore as spam and just don't read it. Mm-hmm. Also, keep the updates short. Less is more. 1 to 2 page maximum. A bit of the story, the forward observer reports, the council directives coming back. I think the longest one ended up the come to Jesus meeting on one of the enforcer ships, where we had the Mazon character, the councillor and the forward observer all having a bit of a ding dong, on about how it was going. And I wrote that one not sort of in a first person report, but interactive, so it was a bit of a departure for that. So tried to shift it up a little bit there. So yeah, keep those sort of things to 1 to 2 pages. You're not writing a novella, every report, because people won't read it. I went with the following system, as there was sort of a hectic lead up to kick off, to day one. There was sort of the advertising, getting it out there, pushing the graphics out, pushing the branding. So we went to day one kickoff, which I was pretty stressed about, because I didn't want it to end up a dud. And then sort of got into my groove. Then we sort of moved from kickoff on day one into a 4-week cycle between game days. So the week following game day one, issue the narrative report based on the forward observers report incorporating game day results. Sometimes there was a revert from the council, sometimes not. The second week, issue out the new mission for the next month. Yeah, so right, okay, that's happened. Give people a break to digest that. That was fun. 2 weeks' time, oh, here comes the next mission, right, for the next month. So they can play around with their lists, look at the mission, go around, I might play my Marauders this time around or something like that. That looks cool. I'd do well with them. Change their army, change their list. Then the third week, just a reminder that registration's open, which sort of goes into helping the organiser know how many tables they've got to set up, how many booking slots you've got, how much table and terrain you've got to set up, on the day. And then the final week before game day, just a final saying, closing the registrations, anybody, that hasn't registered, please register. So it's just sort of a little weekly prompter, just a little weekly tidbit, making sure that goes out on all the mediums. Go out in the chat group, go out on the Facebook page, go out on the Discord, because not everybody looks at the same thing. Yeah. So you've got to hit all three of them with the consistent messaging. So you build all your messaging and then you sit there and you just go publish, publish, publish. So you hit them all, right? So in different people, you picked up on which ones were using, the different mediums. Very, very little DMs, very, very little direct messaging. It was nearly always sort of, affirmations in chat group, affirmations and on the webpage or on the Discord, I had a lesson in interpreting emojis, which was great. What does that one mean? Is that a coming or not coming? Or on the consistency part, to keep people engaged, each game day pre-set up the table, terrain slightly differently to add some replayability because, you've only got so much terrain and variety where possible. Usually, that's specified by the mission, but also often not in the narrative ones. So be creative, so make it a little bit creative, a little bit challenging.
And you've spoken about game day a few times, which I think would be the most fun way to participate. But you did have the option for people to play games at home and submit some results, right?
Correct. On the accessibility, yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't really introduce that till sort of later through after sort of, the first three missions. There was high attendance, and then we had Christmas and some people lost some momentum and that sort of stuff. So that's sort of when I opened it. So that's sort of just adapting as you move through, you know what I mean? And say, hey, anybody that's missed a mission, everything's up there. If you want to grab the missions and organise a game by yourselves or borrow some terrain, let me know. And, play in the garage or play at a club day or whatever like that. Send me the result sheets and I'll incorporate them and count them as...
Was there much uptake on that? So was there still much?
There is now. They're all racing.
Well, I was going to say I know there was uptake on that because people have been sharing their games, online with everyone else. So it's been good to keep everyone gets to feel part of it still, even though there's two people playing in someone's garage.
We sort of hit that campaign midpoint, and I had an idea right through the campaign midpoint of where I wanted to pivot. And so at the campaign midpoint and the end of Mission 3 narrative, Tertia Prime was officially classified as a dead zone by the Council of Seven. That was it. All the exploratory missions were finished with. They got intel off the planet. They knew what was happening. And that's it. It's a dead zone. And that was it. Enforcers, exterminate anything you see that's not an enforcer. You know what I mean? So it really went up to next level. People, rebels trying to get off the planet, all these other forces. And this is when the Asterians appeared, right? So they come and brought their special sort of gameplay, to those sort of missions. So it was that point I actually reached out to Scott, one of the local Mantic Pathfinders, if he could help out and run some Deadzone games in parallel to the Firefight games on the remaining gaming days of the campaign. So to intro the new element, midway through the campaign, I did some additional marketing in the same online channels, this time remembering to add the Deadzone logos. I'll talk about that in my mistakes I made later on. So Scott ran all the Deadzone games as well as some learn to play sessions for new people. So thanks very much, Scott, for all your help, mate. Appreciated it. So that was really good. This midpoint Deadzone edition also gave people the opportunity to stay and play the whole day. They play Firefight in one session and Deadzone in another, or just participate in their preferred session, right? Yeah. So again, ramp up the accessibility. What you said about opening up for like the remote play and the remote reporting in of the game results, so that sort of really opened up in the campaign sort of closing stages, and sort of midway through, and that's happening now. I've opened up that to all players to organise any offline catch-up games they may have missed out to organise themselves, record the results, and I'll count towards their Tertia Prime campaign medals. So it's just another element about providing accessibility with all the research, self-serve online. So really, and I'm going to leave it there, I've got plenty of Google Drive space, that's not an issue. So we'll keep that up there as this year's campaign.
You should have hit me up to come in for at least one game when the with the Enforcer Scorched Earth campaign, because that's what my Enforcers are designed to do. Maybe I could have come and racked up some body count.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what army you play. It's the same philosophy no matter what.
Well, I like to be consistent.
The Enforcers is just much less subtle about it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the other things that has contributed well to the longevity of players remaining engaged in this campaign as well is that in some other campaigns which have a more competitive focus, if you don't do well early on, there's less incentive to continue engaging, because if you're only playing to do well in the campaign, you can't do that now and maybe you just drop out. Whereas for this, it's all about the story and the focus is on playing the games. And so it's very easy to remain engaged with that because the game and the story is at the heart of it.
That's why I de-linked all the progression-based elements where you get a few extra points or an extra weapon or something like that in those style of campaigns.
There's been a lot of great information that's come out with what you've been speaking about, but do you have any specific tips for would-be campaign organisers?
So first of all, pick your genre, whether that be fantasy, sci-fi, historicals, pick it, right? Pick your genre. Start with a plan or storyboard, okay? Have a rough plan. You got to have a plan in your head. Reference available lore. Don't recreate the wheel, Use that and extend it. Some gaming systems are very tightly lore controlled and you have gatekeepers on that, The Mantic universe isn't like that, they really encourage people, to delve into their creativity, especially even in creative writing. Set your scope. Right? Do you want it to run short time? Do you want to run long time? What sort of cadence do you want? Monthly, fortnightly? Set your scope and set something realistic. That's one of the things, I think, one of the key things. People go, we'll have it every fortnight. People really struggle to commit to every fortnight. People are busy. Lives are busy. Even kids' lives are busy with education and sport. They just can't commit to that. One of the big ones is secure your venue and resources needed, like tables, terrain, mats, and any helpers that you think you might need. If you can't self-resource, you've got to look, to other people got terrain and how you're going to get that, to game days. Clear communication, both in cadence and consistency, is critical, because otherwise, if you just do a big info dump, people go, oh yeah, that's great, and then all you do for the next period of time is answer questions because they don't go back and read it, right? So you've got to keep...
Is it in the pack, Mike?
Is it in the pack, Mike?
Yeah. We all know how many people play should read the player's pack.
Publish the campaign schedule ASAP and upfront, so no surprises. People can plan around dates and plan catch-ups, as required. Prep all your resources like player packs, background info, mission and results sheets, results spreadsheets, etc. But only make the players' resources available online and only publish out when you need it. Yeah? Don't overload people with a full end-to-end info dump of 6 months of the campaign because it just becomes too long, didn't read it, right? That's it, they just don't. Finally, prepare to be the spare. Especially if you're playing in it. Great, with gaming you need even numbers. Yeah, someone may be sick on the day, might call in sick. You've got to be prepared to be disappointed yourself and sit out. You've also got to be prepared to be the spare when, okay, I've got odd numbers, I've only got 7 this morning or whatever. And then 8th turns up. Oh, didn't I? Oh, I'm sure I registered. Oh, but I'm here to play. So you've got to be ready for that too. So you've got to get, oh, God, I'm actually playing this morning. Yeah, so prepare to be the spare. So they're the sort of bullet point things you really need to do. It's all about preparation, and the execution and communication. Very forge fathery response, I know.
Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, I'm thinking what you were saying about making sure you guarantee things like a space in which it can happen. And I mean, obviously, clubs are often looking for some of these kind of organised events to happen because it guarantees people are going to be there as regular attendees in the club. And so, I mean, engaging with your local gaming club and saying, I have an idea for this, can we have a space for it? I'm sure it's something which game clubs are very keen to jump on.
And for the game clubs, I think if there's a circle of players of a game, it might bring in other players to the club that weren't part of that club to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the nice surprise that you hadn't planned for or what was going on during the campaign. Like, not everything always runs to plan, as we know, but
Correct.
What was the nice things that occurred? What was the best thing?
Despite my dwarven ethic of pre-planning for every possible contingency, is the ability of people to break missions in real time. And this was great. Mission 4, weapons testing, was all over by mid-turn 2. Done. All possible victory points removed from the board. The two players, which is two younger players, Jack and Jet, they focused 100% on the mission parameters and basically just ignored combat and only engaged each other only when they couldn't avoid it.
Yeah.
So they actually stripped all the VPs off and it was then to turn 2. And we're only like an hour and a bit in. And they said, we're done. I said, what do you mean you're done? I said, we're done. We've completed it. And I said, I'm thinking, oh, they made a mistake or something. Let's go and see what you've done, right? I went through everything and went, no. They broke it. So that was it. And they said, what do we do now? I said, well, who won?
Did you want to go again?
Do you want to go again? Do you want to just keep killing each other and just get your kill points up? I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
So what was it that they had searched every building? Is that how they were getting all the VP?
Weapons testing is an interesting one because, this is some of the first time I played these narrative missions as well. And the whole premise of that mission is each building, and there's 6 of them, can only be searched 3 times in the whole game. But you can search them multiple times with different units in a round. So they're hitting it with Unit 1, searching it, opposition players hitting the same building, same round, searching it, hitting it again or double activating or doing whatever, hitting it again with another unit in range, just sprinting them to get in range with all their auras or, to boost their speed to get their leader in contact. And boom, that one's tapped out. That's been searched 3 times. Oh, I suppose I'll just step around and shoot you next time because that's... so that's it's a strange mission, that one.
Yeah, so that's why they're not fighting, because they're all sprinting to get to the...
to get to the next building, to knock on the door.
I think the kill points were like 100 and 200 or something like that. They were like nothing compared to hundreds and thousands. You're playing 1750 and there's it's up 100 points.
I'm just imagining it like, the old cartoons, they would always have something, the dog pile where they're like, people keep jumping on the dog pile and then someone just crawls out the bottom. I'm just imagining this massive dog pile of them onto the building.
Yeah, and then they'd sprint off, the table set up. I had those ones all spread out in that one, so they had to get all of the board. So then they're just sending units, they're just sending them as fast as they could.
Like a kid's soccer match where the pack just follows the ball. They're all just going to the next building together.
So that was fun, a broken mission. One of the pleasant surprises for me was the variety of people's Firefight and Deadzone collections turning up, to different gaming days, beautifully painted armies. And as I mentioned before, mine was pretty boring, just my Forge Fathers plus or minus a few different squad sizes or an interchange of a few vehicles depending on the mission, but pretty much the same core. Where they're turning up with beautifully painted Army A. Next time they're turning up beautifully painted Army B. It's oh, I feel inadequate here. Yeah, so that was pretty good too. So it's surprising. It really surprised me how much mounted gear is actually out there.
And every faction would have been represented in the campaign at least once. Right?
No.
No? Who missed out?
I haven't seen any Marauders.
Marauders, yeah.
Wow.
I don't think Alexi played and I didn't play.
Oh, no, sorry. Alexi played. There was
okay.
Marauders. Yeah, Alexi's played a couple of games. There was Marauders. GCPS were very poorly represented.
Yeah,
it was mainly Maison.
I think some of the Maison players, some of the GCPS players played Maison instead in the campaigns. Yeah.
Well, for the story purposes, right?
Yeah,
So,
probably. Yeah. Yeah.
And for storyline purposes, the Tertia Corporation, or whatever it was that actually owned the planet, they got left behind. They got drowned in the story, so that's no one's really interested in them guys.
So there was 2 mighty Night Stalker players. So
Mighty.
yes. Night Stalkers were completely undefeated because the only game that I lost playing Night Stalkers was to the other Night Stalker player. So yeah.
Who else is playing Night Stalkers?
Jason.
All right.
Jason had a personal goal, to play a different army in every mission.
Excellent.
That was his personal goal, which he achieved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's one of the couple of generals who's completed all 6 so far.
Yep.
So he's into Hell Mission 7.
Fair enough. Yes, Jason's said he's got every single army, so it doesn't surprise me.
Very prolific.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that when you do a campaign later in the year or maybe early next year, again, what would you do differently next time?
What we do differently? Okay, well, I already started. So I incorporated some constructive feedback that I actually received from the player base, which was really good. One of the things I make sure I include the actual game branding Firefight logo on the graphics for my posters and graphics and everything.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Mantic. I had all the correct verbiage, but not the logos. But when we introduced Deadzone through the mission, after Mission 3, I made sure the Deadzone logos were there. So that was a good pickup. I missed that, doing the digital creation of the thing. And the first day was, where's the Firefight logo? Too late now. I guess keep playing. One of the things which was a really good one is move to online Google Forms for result sheets rather than manual pencil and paper, allowing user upload of results for the out-of-band games. Yeah. So, that was a very constructive suggestion. And I just went, yep, okay, have to go and learn how to do that or get some help from someone with a bit more computer skill in that area to help me do that. So basically, making editable sheets, but not have them, everything else editable, read only and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, as I hinted at before, the campaign running for a total of 8 months now has been a bit of a marathon. And I'm grateful to all those people who turned up and the ones that kept turning up and playing games. So must have been doing something right. And then all diligently entering their result sheets, which sculpted the narrative and made the event a success. So, yeah, thank you to all the players who participated. It really, made it for me as an organiser. Having said that, I'd definitely shorten up any next campaign to say maybe a 3-month focused burst, like a seasonal event, like example, a winter campaign, 3 months, hard focus, still monthly cadence, but that's it. 3 months, it's on. That would allow more bandwidth to possibly run 2 different gaming systems campaigns per annum rather than just be dedicated to one. And also mix up the campaign content to keep it fresh and the lore on point. You know what I mean? Because, you could keep introducing some more stuff rather than the same storyline for 8 months.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely potential to do it in 3 months as a monthly thing, but still support, say, 2 games per month. Because a lot of the game day, because we have 2 sessions at the club, like the morning and the afternoon, my preference would be to show up and play 2 games if I'm making the effort to get to the club. So I could do, Mission A and Mission B for that month, or maybe do Mission A in the afternoon at the game day and then do one, out of band in someone's garage in the other weeks of that month.
Deadzone and Firefight, or Armada and Kings.
Epic Warpath, if someone wants to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say Firefight into Warpath or Deadzone into Firefight.
Don't worry about Epic Warpath. I don't play it.
On a personal level, I would ask for help a lot earlier than I did with Scott midway through.
Oh, yeah.
Because I realised I got myself overcommitted about halfway through trying to deliver everything. So people will help you deliver your vision and your outcome. All you have to do is ask, which is I'm not great at, obviously, trying to do it all myself. So, but yeah, ask for help early. People will give you their time and they will help. So that's one thing that I'd do differently.
I've got a suggestion for something to do next time. I'd like the narrative updates to be released in a podcast format. So like a verbal, if you narrated it and I could listen to it, that's how I consume most of my content now, because while I'm walking the dogs or driving is when I get that time and that headspace to consume content, rather than, I know you said you keep the updates short, to the point where people won't read them, but even so, it can be a bit of a chore sometimes to sit down with that headspace for that time to read through something. I'd really like to listen to it.
That's a good suggestion. I'd have to get a voice coach though. But if you have a look at all my graphics and branding, I've pretty much called myself the narrator. So I was a narrator, I was Ultramarine 40, so I've stuck my head in that noose, haven't I?
Neat.
So that'd be cool.
So if you had to pick the biggest challenge that you encountered, what would that be?
I had a couple. Am I allowed more than one?
Sure. I'll allow it.
I don't count as a challenge.
No.
Mike is challenging, but he's not what we're talking about.
Oh, okay. So my biggest personal challenge was printing and painting enough terrain for 4 tables prior to even starting, because most of the Firefight narrative missions require 6 buildings.
Yeah.
So so that's 24 buildings, paint, 3D print, paint, get them on. So spray paint, speed paints, and my helping wife, for the win on that one. So thankfully she's quite creative, and she spent many a night down there saying, how many more of these things have we got to paint?
But I will say, it isn't just 4 tables. They're 4 beautiful tables. That was such a delight to play on.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I know you mentioned before about seeing all these lovely armies come out of the woodwork and coming down, but it was always seeing them on such lovely tables, and that also helps spin up the story, right? Because you're placing these armies in an environment, in a context, in a story.
Well, I tried to build the locales on the planet, like the T-44 crater mine, the Corlon City spaceport, rebel encampment. Yeah, you know what I mean? Things like that. So, they were trying to be a little bit, contextual for the planet. Second one for me personally was creative writing. While it's a passion of mine, I don't think I'm very good at it. So I'm really not expecting any call up from Wing Tassar anytime soon, to help proofread something or add some stuff. But, it's something that I like doing. Sometimes, you get a bit of a mental block. So that was sort of challenging, thinking, I really have to keep the cadence up here. So I've got to find, as you said, to get in that right headspace. Being in a creative headspace, sometimes you can't just sometimes turn that on. But overall, there were no major challenges or impediments, to the whole campaign. I think it went well. Great venue, great support from the admin team at Greater Springfield Gamers. They helped me out a lot there, with tables and bookings and, making sure that, my schedule didn't clash with anything else, which was really good. Had some really awesome engagement and support from the player base, with constructive feedback, and I really appreciated that because that motivates you to both improve delivery and also look at what's next, which I've been asked a couple of times already, and I said, please give me a break for a few months, guys. So that's they're the only sort of real challenges, I suppose.
Everything I read that you wrote was pretty good. I think you're being a little bit hard on yourself there.
Thank you.
Good.
I think you did an awesome job. I know that you spent a lot of time, and we did have a number of conversations when you were originally planning on or thinking about running the campaign.
We had a pub lunch when I said, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
And you went, whoa, there's a lot of work in that.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I did.
You did.
But you pulled
Good
it all
counsel.
off, and
Good counsel.
obviously you said you pulled it all off and going through, and it's been running well in the campaign. And for my side of things, I said I'm very grateful of someone else running. Even with the narrative event going through and taking some of the heat off, so I actually did have an opportunity to play for a few games for once, rather than running events. So I'm very grateful for all of that. But it was fantastic, and it's on there, and enjoyed the pub lunch too. Thanks, Mark. I didn't need much encouragement to turn up today, but thank you.
That's cool.
Excellent. Congratulations on a successful campaign.
Thank you,
and
Sam.
thank you very much for sharing it with everyone. And for our listeners, hopefully there's something in here which has inspired you to also run maybe your own narrative campaign, or lots of great tips and tricks. And as Mark has mentioned, some of the files going to be available for other people who might like to replicate something similar. Well, before we take ourselves out, shall we do Overwatch? What's on the Firefight horizon that's exciting us?
I'm actually looking forward to having a break. I have to say, the tournaments, unfortunately my son starts to play rugby now. It's in the sports season, so I kind of go into a bit of hibernation as far as playing or certainly running tournaments until nearly October, which is when SpringCon starts to appear. So my weekends are pretty much be taken up by that, and he also works at McDonald's, so it also takes up some of my other gaming time because I've got to take it to a shift and things like that.
Yeah.
So, teenagers, I guess that's basically along those lines. So I probably will just do a bit of hobby and paint up some stuff and assemble some things and fill in some gaps. I've got a number of boxes that I've still got for my Forge Fathers I still haven't cracked, which is like some other units that I need to fill out or get some more transports and more tanks, etc. to fill in. And I've also supposed to be doing the slow go for my Twilight Kin, which I kind of need a tournament for because generally I get an army ready when I'm aiming for a particular tournament.
You should take him at BrisCon. As the buyer.
I can't do Brisbane because it's not on a school holiday, and that's one of the irritating parts, which is the one reason why I always manage to do full con because they always put theirs on the school holidays.
Yeah.
I can manage to make it. And same with spring con, it's always on during the school holidays, so I can always make that. So that's the 2 tournaments that I can definitely run things for. So that's kind of going into my Australian winter, so I go into hibernation mode for
more Forge Father tanks for me to take off the table. Thank you, Mike. I do enjoy that. For me, I'm really excited about the My Mini Factory Tribes announcement for Firefight because that they have said those will cross over into the vault or for individual sales. So I don't necessarily need to do the tribes because I've got the vault subscription. So I should hopefully see some more Firefight stuff coming through to the vault, which is cool. What is on the vault at the moment that I'm eyeing off is the Nameless. It's Ronnie said they're coming. So do I wait for the plastics or do I start printing resin from the vault? I'm not sure. I'm kind of keen to do Nameless painted up like a Zerg style. I think that would be really cool. And I'm also looking forward to Mark Narrative Campaign Mark II.
Okay, well let's just talk about that.
Yeah.
How about you, Mark? What's on the horizon that's exciting you?
Oh well, end of May will be the final mission 7 for the Dying Light campaign, and I'm looking forward to completing that and having a bit of a break from the organisation of things for probably a couple of months. I do have some ideas in a more cyberpunk Asian themed table with the Zhang Seng Corporation, that make the gravitic motors for all the GCPS. I've got some ideas down that stream, but I haven't really explored those yet. But like to print up some more terrain out of that, sort of bring it into sort of a bit more into the core worlds, not on the periphery. Yeah. So it doesn't always have to be in every desolation and destruction. And then probably finishing off the last of these Forge Father units that I have, a bit like Mike. I've got a few to pad out and complete, and then move over and start painting my Night Stalkers. So I've been working on the crossover with the cow. I joined the slow grow and then I dropped out of the slow grow because the slow grow became glacial grow and then became frozen over grow. So nothing happened. So I've got some scarecrows assembled and that. So I'm trying to do the Mike method of round basing them and fitting them on the square trays as well. So
see, it breaks down in assembly. That's what kills you.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who likes assembly? I really must be.
Alexi likes assembly. You two can form your own club of crazy people.
Well, I don't mind assembly, I have to admit, sometimes. But I really enjoyed assembling the Night Stalkers, and I believe some other content that I'm one of the unusual people for that, but I really enjoyed putting those together.
Have you ever tried to? Well, I know you've done this, Mike, but Sam, you like assembly. Have you ever tried to fit the right legs onto the right Enforcer operatives? Because that is a nightmare.
But they're tagged, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. If you fold the tags, if you fold the tags on the screws,
who doesn't clip them all off into a big pile and assemble them?
That's just making a rod for your own back. If that's the case, you have to clip them off one by one and put them together.
Picking up and clipping and then putting down and filing and picking up and
or you meticulously sort as you go. You clip and move this one into a pile and then clip it. I think we're showing our different tendencies.
Do you know there are assembly instructions for Enforcers?
Reading is hard. We've already established this.
Do they have the assembly instructions as an Audible podcast?
I don't know.
Someone did a video for the Hornet assembly that I watched.
Oh yeah,
a long time
and
ago.
for the Mule actually,
And
they were quite
really
good.
Yeah.
It was a Mantic video. So.
Yeah, the Mantic one, the Sturmhammer one's really good because it literally shows you how to be able to use the kit and be able to assemble it in different ways. So you can use the one tank for all the variants for both. Everything else, which was great from Mantic, and you'll find that on Mantic's page on YouTube for all of those. It was great.
Yeah, I found it most helpful for the Mule because now I've made however many mules, but for your first couple, the front suspension systems are not at all intuitive to assemble. Now I just do it in my sleep, having made so many mule variants. But the front suspension, it comes in like 4 different pieces.
It's a few different pieces, yeah, and that whole assembly is a pain in the butt. And then it's really hard to get them to sit. I've got a couple of mules where if you turn it over, you'll see a very shoddy workmanship, bush mechanic style.
For myself in Overwatch, I'm looking forward to seeing what the outcome of a cryptic post made by Cleric, which shows a very chunky style Marauder Walker with a caption of "More info to come soon, but that's all you're getting for now, smiley face." So I'm excited to see what this could be. It looks a lot like an epic Warpath unit, but judging by the base, it looks to be in Firefight scale. I'm very excited to see exactly what Cleric could be alluding to.
Spicy.
So that brings us to the close of our episode. Hopefully we've found some interesting stuff in there about narrative campaigns. Please do consider all the things of subscribing, liking, leaving us a review, sharing with your friends. It all helps us reach a broader audience. Mark, would you like to close out the episode?
Until next time, prepare your resources, narrate your story, and unleash controlled fire.
Hear the tales, fierce and